You guys, like, I'm trying to not be negative all the time. Like, I really wanted to love this movie. And, like, the more I just kept watching it, the more I was just like, what? Ahoy, hoy, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The O Show. I'm O, and I'm here for your amusement. Okay, so, as you can see by my face on the thumbnail, we're going to talk about this movie, If. It is currently streaming on Paramount Plus, okay? It is a 2024 movie release. And yeah, I didn't like this movie at all. Okay, you know what? Let me just reword this. So, is it a fun movie to watch? Yes. Is it a movie for kids? Yes. Is it a movie for like adults watching it with kids? No, because you're gonna be like, what are they teaching my children? You guys, I really tried. I really tried. And I really tried. Because you know what? I love John Krasinski, right? So, John Krasinski wrote and directed this movie. Just like he was doing like for those A Quiet Place movies, right? And so I was like, okay, this should be good. And it's starring Ryan Reynolds. So, like, you're going to put hot Ryan Reynolds in a movie. Like, I want to watch. Like, make it make sense. So it's not that the movie is like visually bad. No, like I love it. It's cute. I love the little imps running around. But it's just all the stuff in between, and it's like they're just making up these rules as the movie goes, and they don't. It's like they didn't know how to end it, and then they just said, "Okay, just fuck it, just do this." It's little kids are watching this anyway. No, because I'm watching it too. I need it to make sense. All right, so let's talk about this. So as I mentioned, Ryan Reynolds is in the movie, and the movie also stars this little girl named Callie Fleming. And so I'm looking at her, and I was like, what? Oh, wait, I know her. I know me some her. Like, where have I seen her before? And then it dawned on me, that's the girl that plays Judith on The Walking Dead, right? So when they had that time period and they skipped ahead, and now all of a sudden Judith is like a little grown up, and what is she, like 10 or something? But then she just kept like kept talking, and like a couple seasons later, I was like, when is she going to die? Because Judith is getting on my nerves. Little girls walked around just talking back to people, and so then I saw her in this movie, and I was like, oh, no, I gotta watch her for 2 hours. So the movie starts off with this montage, right, of a happy family. You see a mom, you see a dad, you see a little girl. So you watch this montage, you're like, okay, happy family. And then the mom, all of a sudden, in one of the little scenes, has like a rag over her head. And she has like a handkerchief. And I was like, okay, she gets cancer. She's going to die. And she does. So, okay. So now we're left with the dad, John Krasinski. He's the dad. So he wrote this, directed it, and he's playing the dad in it. Okay. So I'm like, okay, maybe that's why she needed an imaginary friend, because why else would she be in this movie? But she's brought back to this apartment, which is her grandmother's place. So I don't know where she came from. Like, okay, obviously they don't live with the grandmother. But the father is at a hospital, and they're in New York. So why is the father in New York if her and the dad live somewhere and then she had to come into town by plane or bus or whatever because the father's like, I wish I could have picked you up, but the grandmother did it. So what? The movie's already starting with questions unanswered. What is happening? And they don't really say what's wrong with the dad. I guess you're supposed to just assume he's having like a heart surgery because I guess he's like this funny dad who just always wants to be cute and funny and not take things serious in front of his daughter. So at one point he like opens up his shirt and he has like a heart that's like ripped. And he's like, oh, because, you know, my broken heart or whatever. But they never say like why he's in the hospital. So I was like, maybe they just don't tell kids what's happening. But I guess we're supposed to know it's because of that. And then this fool's in the hospital, and we see him in there like 3 different times, and he's never had a hospital gown. I don't see a heart monitor. I don't see the blood pressure monitor. There's no machine going beep, beep while he's in bed. Like at one point he has an IV, and that wasn't even connected to him. But like, how is this man just in civilian clothes in this hospital room? Like he looks like he works there. He's not a patient. Okay, so anyway. So we later go back to the apartment and the little girl name is B. And I think her name is Elizabeth, and I guess the mom called her B. So she finds a video camera and is like, oh, I don't have a power cord for it. Not sure why. But she ends up going to like this corner store or something and buying a cord to this camera. So now the next issue is, why is this little girl just walking out the house, not telling no one where she's going? I thought she lived in New York. So is she in a suburb of New York? That doesn't make it better. But she leaves the house, just do-do-do. And she goes to the store by herself at night just to buy a cord. So anyway, when she comes back, she sees this, like, what she thinks is a little girl, like, running into their apartment building, running up the stairs to the floor above them and then into one of the apartments. So she goes to investigate because she's like, I don't have anyone else to talk to. And yeah. So is this girl in school? Because she just seems to always go to the hospital by herself. And she's also bringing her dad flowers. Has it been established that this man loves flowers? Is she spending her own money on these flowers? Where is she getting the flowers from? And why does she keep bringing these flowers to the hospital? And again, we see the dad, and this time he's like in the closet like a dumb asshole, and wearing civilian clothes, still not in a robe. So you're sick as hell apparently, and you're in the closet. Like, you guys, there's this little boy that she ends up meeting at this visit, and there's this little like Asian boy named Benjamin, and he's in a bed, right? And he's bored because like the TV is broken, and later he's like, I think my mom had something to do with that. She says TV makes my mind turn into mush or whatever. This kid has like a broken leg, he has a broken arm, there was something else wrong with him, like his finger or something, I don't remember, but like, what, the child abuse is happening? And then what's so funny is you never see anyone visit this kid. Like, anytime she comes to this hospital, he is just there alone. There's no nurse coming in and out of this room. There's no father, there's no mother. We only hear about this mother, but this mother she must be at work because no one is caring about this child just laying in this hospital bed. Apparently the dad also has a video camera. So, like when B is looking at it at home, like she's looking at old videos, then they show him like at the hospital with another camera looking at videos. Like, why are there so many cameras? And who's filming this? Okay, so the question I was going to ask earlier was like, what is up with Tina Turner? They keep playing "You Better Be Good to Me" by Tina Turner throughout this movie. Like the little girls dancing to it, which I was doing the same thing at that age. Okay, I had my mom's cassette album, and I was rocking to some Tina. Okay, I get it, but I was trying to see like why this song? Like, what does this have to do with the feel of this movie? So, but then there's this part where the little girl is singing like when she's younger, Tina Turner, and then her parents are just like kind of doing this, and then there's a person behind them, and I was like, who's filming that? Is it the grandmother? I guess I'm supposed to assume that, or I guess I'm not supposed to actually think about that. Who said we were at the grandmother's house? But I don't know. Anyway, you know what? That might not count. Someone's gonna say, "Oh, the grandmother did it." Okay, you know what? Just scratch that off the list. But still, you have to stop and think like, well, who is filming? Because we never see the grandmother in any of these movies. Moving on. Okay, so now I don't remember like what time we are, like how far along in the movie we just got. But then she hears like talking outside the apartment, and so she's nosy as hell and goes out and sees a man and the little girl that she thought was a little girl. And then this girl walks out of the apartment again and it's just walking down the street following these strangers, stranger danger. Like, why are we teaching kids to just leave their house? So so she's following these two individuals, and then the guy breaks into a house. Like, he climbs up through the second floor window into this little girl's room. And I guess what's happening is they're tracking down this one if named Blue. And by the way, if stands for imaginary friend, if you haven't picked that up yet. Okay, so they're looking for this if. And so we are now introduced to Blue, who's purple, but apparently like his original child was colorblind. So I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure it's probably what they're going to say. And they did say that. So what's happening is Ryan Reynolds' character, his name is Calvin, or Cal. And Cal, with the help of the girl If, who's actually like this butterfly, they're trying to match other Ifs with new children. Because once their child gets old enough and I guess doesn't need them anymore, they disappear. Now, that's another thing that drove me crazy too, because when Blue was explaining this, he's like, "Ooh, if they don't need us, we disappear." So I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, one of these Ifs is probably going to die later," because the way he says disappear. But no, they don't disappear. They just can't be seen by the child no more. And so I was like, "Oh, I don't like the way they explained that," because I thought someone was going to die. Like, it was going to be this emotional period of time later on where an If like fades away or something, you know. But no, that's not what they mean at all. So I was like, okay. So anyway, this little girl was crying for an hour because he was scaring the shit out of her. So I guess she was not a good fit for Blue. So they get him out and they bring him back to the apartment, and then B sees all this and ends up fainting because she's like, what the hell are these things I'm looking at? And when she comes to, she is now upstairs above her apartment inside Cal's apartment. So Cal, I guess, is living there. And yeah, they explain the whole thing to be of what's happening. Okay. Oh, and the butterfly, her name is Blossom, by the way. I guess Blossom lives with Cal. Okay. Oh, and one thing also that Blue tells B in this movie is, you've been here before. Like, ooh, so long ago. It's been a while, but you've been here before. She doesn't catch on to this. So I was like, did she not hear what he just said? But she's like, whatever. And so now I guess we're supposed to be like, oh, what does that mean? So now it's another day, and This little girl, once again, don't know if she went to school or not, but she's out and about in the world, ends up again at the hospital with flowers again. At this time, like, Blue followed her, so now Blue's in the hallway, and of course there's this one scene where, like in every movie with a hospital scene, all of a sudden everyone just disappears down the hallway. No one's around when shit's going down. But she even tells him, like, you can't be here, there's adults and I'm going to be looking crazy, and it just so happens that she's doing all this in front of Benjamin's room, the little annoying boy from earlier. So he's like watching this whole thing, but he doesn't say nothing. He just goes, hello, who are you talking to? Not, why are you doing all this? So we have another interaction with him. So, yeah. We cut to B bringing Blue back to the apartment. But then I'm like, wait, did she ever see her father? Like, she went to visit him. Then she has the interaction with Blue and Benjamin, and then we're back at the apartment. Like, what if the dad was hiding in the closet again and she just never showed up? I guess I'm supposed to assume she did. All this assuming. It's too much work. So B's talking to Calvin, and then she's like, well, I want to help. I want to help you guys match up these ifs, right? And then I guess Cal says, like, well, a lot of them are in like this retirement home. We got to go to the magical retirement home. And she's like, well, yeah, where to go? So I'm assuming now we're on another day. So now B and Calvin are getting on the train. They're going on the subway. And they travel to... They never show the name, but I'm pretty sure that's Coney Island. So they go to Coney Island. And then she's like, how do we get in? And he was like, well, we got to go around back to find a key to get in. And then next thing you know, they're just in the park. Like, what? You got to go in the back to find a key? What are we on a quest now? But then they just end up in the back. So what does that mean? How did they get in? Is there no security outside Coney Island? And then, okay, I'm going to skip a little to like the ending of their visit. But they passed this sign at one point to the park. And the park says, it is open 7 days a week, Memorial Day to Labor Day. And then it's open just on weekends, April, May, September, October. So, this little heifer needs to be in school because according to this sign, if it's not open right now, we don't know what time of day it is, I guess, but I'm assuming it's like not summertime. It's like fall or spring. And school is in fucking session. Where's the truant officer? How come no one's like, hey little girl, why are you not in school? Because, and we'll get to the gag on that. Okay, so anyway, they go into the park and they go to the what's that? The swing ride that goes around and then tilts. A whirlybird? Is that what it's called? Anyway, they open up the side panel door and they go down this staircase, and I guess we are now in the magical retirement home of ifs, right? And I guess humans are not allowed there because he's talking to a receptionist. We never see this lady, but he's trying to like hide her. Okay, you guys, so now we're in the retirement home and we now get to see all the other ifs in the movie, right? So I'm going to cheat because one thing about this movie is there is a star-studded cast of voices voicing these ifs. So there's like a Bubble, voiced by Awkwafina, a Unicorn, voiced by Emily Blunt, a Spaceman, voiced by George Clooney. There's like this Ice Cube in a glass who's like alive. He's voiced by Bradley Cooper. There's a Flower Man, Matt Damon. There's a Banana. He was Bill Hader. There's an art teacher, Richard Jenkins. There's some slime. That's Keegan Michael Key. There's an octopus by Blake Lively. There's a magician mouse voiced by Sebastian Maniscalco. Cosmo. Actually, I think Cosmo might have been my favorite character. Cosmo's this guy. He looks like a spy. You never see his face, when you see his eyes. He's kind of just zooming all over the place. So he's voiced by Christopher Maloney. There's a ghost, voiced by Matthew Reese. Guardian dog is Sam Rockwell. Alligator is Maya Rudolph. A gummy bear is Amy Schumer. There's a robot by Jon Stewart. There is a teddy bear, which we'll get to next. He's voiced by Louis Gossett Jr., which I think might have been his last movie role before he passed away. R.I.P. Louis Gossett Jr. And who else? Oh, and then there's Keith. Keith is an imaginary... Well, no. Keith is a invisible imaginary friend. And the only reason that we know Keith is there is because Ryan Reynolds keeps tripping over him throughout the movie. And he gets up all pissed off going, Keith! But Keith is apparently voiced by Brad Pitt. And Keith doesn't make any noise. So I guess there's this running gag with Brad Pitt going back to Deadpool, where I guess he was wasn't he like an invisible character there? But then he got electrocuted for like a split blink and you miss it moment. When he's getting electrocuted, you see his face. And you're like, oh, it's Brad Pitt. But if you didn't see it, you're like, Brad Pitt's in the movie? So I guess they did it again in this movie. And then there's even a part where Ryan Reynolds trips over Keith and you see his leg go up in the air. And Cal is wearing Spider-Man socks. So I was like, okay, so I guess we're just keeping this whole, like, MCU thing. Is it MCU? Yeah, right? It's not DC. I don't know. But they're just keeping all that in the family, I guess. So if you know, you know. But yeah, so cute, right? We have a whole bunch of voices. So apparently they're there to go see Louis, the big old teddy bear. And I guess Louis is the one who like created this whole retirement home. And then Louis starts talking and just spills all the tea. That's what old people do. They just got no filter. So Louis tells B that Cal used to be a clown. Now, when you look at Cal, he's just in, like, pants with suspenders, and he's wearing a shirt and, like, a jacket or whatever, like, nothing, like, too out of control. But Louis is like, yeah, you know he used to be a clown, right? And his only job was to make you laugh. And once again, this girl is just sitting there going, duh, and not realizing, like, what people keep telling her. So now we're like, oh, which I feel is like a big spoiler in the movie. But you're like, okay, so Cal's not real. Cal doesn't exist because apparently he used to be her imaginary friend, who obviously she forgot because, how do you forget that face? And then earlier in the movie, there's a part where I think when she first gets to the hospital, her dad has a book with a bookmark, and when she pulls it out, it was this drawing of a clown. Kind of looks like Cal-ish. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, he's not real. But then I had to stop and think, like, well, who the fuck was she talking to on the train? Because now you're really looking crazy because you just had this train ride and you're talking to Cal. So I had to rewind the movie a little bit. And I guess their play on that no one is questioning this little girl just talking to no one, is because if you look behind them, there's a guy with some earphones in his ear, and then when the camera changes and you look in front or behind or whatever, each side of where she's sitting, there's a person with like earphones on. Now that explains why those two people are not like, who's a little white girl talking to herself? Why is she crazy? But like, there's another side of the train, but they never show that, so no one is like questioning who this girl's talking to, number one. And then number two, this girl's just walking around New York City. She's all the way at Coney Island by herself on the street, talking to herself. And this whole time, her grandmother has no idea where she is. So Lewis is like, okay, B, you can redesign this place to make it look like however you want it to look. So she does. She uses her imagination. 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 So, she uses her imagination and the place starts transforming. Again, not sure why she's doing all this when Ryan Reynolds had to sneak her into the place so the receptionist wouldn't see her. But no one else has an issue with this girl being there and doing what she's doing. So what was the point of that? See, who are you hiding her from? So anyway, there's this dance number that happens to the tune of the Tina Turner song. I mean, it's kind of cute, whatever. But they leave and never go back to the retirement home. So I don't know why he had her redesign this place and she's never going to go back to it. Okay, so somewhere down the line, when B was at the hospital, one of those crazy visits, she passes Ben's room and was like, would you like an imaginary friend? And he was like, sure, because no one has still come to visit this child in this hospital room. And so she goes, okay. So she is like, you know what? Let's go and try to get Ben one of these friends. So they start interviewing the ifs. Which then brings me to wonder, like, if Ryan Reynolds and Blossom was like, we want to try to match these people up to new kids, wouldn't they already, like, know the names of these things? Maybe where they came from or something? Like, he didn't do anything. Like, he started this, he has, like, a whole book of these things, right? It says what their name is. I swear it said like who their child used to be or something. So you have a book with all their pictures in it. Not sure how that was put together. But then they're interviewing these ifs. I feel like that would have already been done. What was the book for that we looked at earlier? Okay, so then we're interviewing these things, and then B takes them, like a group of them, to her and Cal, to the hospital so that we can now see if Ben can see someone, because I guess if he does, I guess that would mean it's a perfect match. But then why interview them? Because he just has to see them. Okay, so look. So, number one, B is walking around this hospital without a visitor badge. Like, every time she was there before, she had like a sticker that said like visitor, right? Now she's just walking up into the place like she owns the damn like child floor or something with this book in her hand. So, one by one, her and Cal start showing Ben, like a person in the door. They're like, can you see this person? He's like, no. And she goes, oh, okay. Can you see this person? He's like, no. She's like, oh, okay. But then, I guess, maybe kids would not have caught the fact that Lewis has already told her that Cal was your imaginary person. Because now I know he's not real, because there's a point where he says out loud to B, like, ask him again if he can see this if or whatever. And then she does. But I'm thinking, like, now, if we are supposed to believe you are in the room, why are you not asking him? Like, every time Cal says something, it was never directed to the boy. And the boy never said anything to him. So, he's just there. And she's doing whatever. And I'm like, okay. So, again, Why is this little girl in this boy's room? Does anyone know she's there? Did she visit her father? Because her father is technically in this hospital, but she's here in this little boy's room, unsupervised. So then one night, Bee and her grandmother are eating pizza. Like her grandmother's like, I didn't know what flavor of pizza you liked. Flavor of pizza? And then she goes, I didn't know which one you like, so I just got you, like, I guess, I'm assuming she bought a Supreme, because what else would you buy if you're not sure what someone likes? But then the girl's like, oh, no, it's fine. But if you look at their plates, like, the grandmother had 2 slices of pizza, the little girls had 2 slices of pizza. Shouldn't this be something you would say before you start eating the pizza? It just... Okay, so the grandmother starts telling her the story of how she used to be this dancer and she was hot to trot and stuff like that. And then she shows Bee this picture of her. But then Bee notices in the background of the picture, there's Blossom. So she's like, oh my God, Blossom was my grandmother's if. So what does this little girl do? She leaves the apartment again when her grandmother is in the kitchen. Just don't got respect for nobody. So she's just out and about, right? Goes upstairs and confronts Bee. She's like, oh my God, you're so-and-so's if. She's like, yeah, duh. And so Bee gets the idea of putting on an old record so that her grandmother can remember all the times she used to dance. And so the grandmother comes in when the record's playing. And she's looking for Bee like, what the hell are you doing? Wasting my electricity up in here. And so she hears the music and then she just starts dancing and remembering the good old days, right? And then I guess maybe she thought about Bee because Bee starts glowing and her wings spread out, and so I guess that's supposed to be her reconnecting to the grandmother, but like, does the grandmother see her? Or is the grandmother just remembering her? But then what happens like 5 minutes later when the grandmother goes back to being a grandmother and goes, I'm going to go sit down and watch the news. So then Bee gets the idea of, instead of finding new kids for these ifs, we could try to get the ifs back with their original kid, who most of them are now obviously grown up now. So they're all like, yeah, that's a great idea. So now we go back to Blue. I don't know if I ever said this, but Blue is voiced by Steve Carell. By the way. So, Blue's like, my boy used to be Jeremy, and he used to eat croissants, and blah, blah, blah. So, Cosmo goes out and finds the kid who's now grown up, and he guess he's living in New York. So then it also starts leading me to like, are all these ifs just New York ifs? How come they're like, during the interview they were like, well, I used to live here, like the Ice Cube. He's an ice cube in a glass of water because his kid used to live in like hot ass Arizona. So I guess the imaginary friend was a cold glass of water. But like, okay, I don't want to give the ending away yet. Okay, so where was I at? So they find Jeremy. Jeremy is Blue's original person, and this little girl comes to this office like, I have a delivery, and the receptionist is like, okay, and just lets her on in. Who's the delivery for? Where is your parent? Like, who are you here with? And so again, and Cal's there, and the lady never says anything to Cal, so I'm like, okay, again, Cal is not real. But there's a part where Cal, Blue, and what's her name? Bee are walking down a busy New York street. Now, if you see these New York streets, you got people walking this way, you got people walking this way. And you have this big if in the middle of these two people. They're all passing around this file, like a legit folder with paperwork in it. But since Cal and Blue are not real, who's holding this paper when B's not holding it? Number one. And number two, there's legit, like, if I'm Blue and he's walking, there's a legit man. Let me use my beer as a man. The man does this. He's walking towards the three, and then he cuts over because he doesn't want to walk like through Blue. Why? Blue doesn't exist. So there should really be like, I don't like that scene. I know what they were trying to do, but when you look at it, there should be no reason there's this huge gap of people who are not walking through these, well, technically one person, because the only person real is B. So why is everyone avoiding walking like through Blue? That drove me absolutely crazy. I didn't like that scene one bit. Remember how in Ghost, like, Patrick Swayze would like walk through people and go whoosh, right through them? There should have been a whole lot of whoosh, 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 whoosh. And it's not. Okay, anyway. So, back to Jeremy. Jeremy's going for this job interview somewhere, and then he's all nervous and shit, and then I guess Blue gets behind him and comforts him, and then he gets the strength to go into this interview and do it right, you know? But then Blue starts glowing, so I guess Jeremy remembers Blue, feels Blue, like, again, they're not tethered anymore. He just remembers Blue and goes in. And they're like, yay, we did it. But did you though? Because what happened? What happens after this? That's what I don't understand. So B comes home and he's like, she. B comes home and then the grandmother's like, oh my God, you gotta pack a bag, we gotta go. And she's like, why? And she was like, because of your dad. So I'm like, oh no, the dad died. Now she's gonna be an orphan. So what does this little girl do? Instead of obeying her grandmother, she runs out of the apartment again. And she goes upstairs and she tries to get like some comfort from Cal. And she's like, I'm not ready for this. And he's like, whatever, you need to go. So they go. Now, I'm assuming someone was like, he's in a coma. He had the surgery went bad, because there was another little scene where the nurse comes in and she's like, you got a big day tomorrow, and the dad's acting stupid like, what's tomorrow? Once again, still not wearing any hospital gown. He's just there in his regular clothes, still not hooked up to no monitors or anything. So what the fuck is wrong with this man? he's just in a room. Just there. So anyway, B runs into the room, and then I started noticing that every time the grandmother is actually there with B at the hospital, she never goes into the room to the dad. So I'm assuming the grandmother must be like the mom's mom, because if that was her son, wouldn't she be in there like all the time? Also visiting with B all the time. I'm assuming this grandmother's like retired, so she ain't going to work. So she never goes to this hospital. You got, see, look, y'all, are y'all hearing what I'm saying? Like, what is this? So this nurse, even though this nurse sees B like run by her, she goes to the grandmother and she just goes like, and the grandmother's like, oh, okay. And so we're like, is he dead? Is he okay? So B goes into the room and the nurse is in there. And she's like, oh, B, your dad has just had a long day and he's tired. He needs rest. Why the fuck did I have to pack a bag, rush to this hospital, and this fool is in bed just sleeping. So we're panicked for no reason at all. So B like goes to him and tells him a story, and then he responds, and then she gives him like this really big hug, right? But why are you hugging him if, again, I assume he had like Did he have open heart surgery? Like, I don't know. They don't say. So I would assume she should not be on him, touching him that hard, because he's going to die if you do. So that didn't mean anything to me, and I'm still mad because my grandmother made me panic for no reason at all. So I guess now it's like the next day, and B is still not going to school. And she decides to thank Cal by delivering like some pastries to him. And so she's knocking on the door, and this old lady down the hall comes out. And she's like, "Ooh, girl, what you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm here to see my friends." And she's like, "You're stupid. There's no one living here." And so the old lady like opens the door. I'm assuming she's the landlady, because why else would she have a key? Opens the door, and of course no one's living there. And B's like, "What's happening? Like, where is everyone?" And like, are they using this apartment for storage? Because there's just a whole bunch of junk and shit just all over the place. Who does that? Like, should you be trying to rent this apartment out? So B's like, I don't know what the fuck's going on, but okay. So anyway, I guess like her dad comes back. He's fine now. I think he's faking this whole thing, but the dad comes home, and I guess he's like, all right, B, we're gonna go back home. We're gonna pack up the car. And so B's outside, and then she drops this box, and she's picking everything up, and she runs to this paper of a picture that she drew, and it's folded. And when she unfolds it, she sees that there's a clown to the left, and she's like, "Oh my god, like that's Cal." So then she runs back into the apartment, and then she passes her grandmother on the stairs. The grandmother's like, "Oh, I was going to come out to say bye to you." And this little rude girl runs by her, right? And so the grandmother's like, "What? Where are you going? What? Why is the grandmother not running behind this girl? Like, why are you just standing there?" Did the grandmother go, "Well, I don't know where she's going, so I'm going to go back to my place." It's like, this girl just ran by you. She's leaving. Do you know who your neighbors are? Obviously, there's no one living upstairs. So my question should be like, where the hell are you going? No. The grandmother just lets her run to danger. Just does nothing about it. So this girl runs upstairs, and then she goes in, and all the imps are there. All the imps are there. And then she sees Cal, and he is a clown again. He's probably all mad, like, damn, she remembered, and I gotta be a clown again. So, I guess the movie ends after this. But they do show that Cal is still going around getting these ifs back with their owners. But I feel like this is just where they were like, this movie's over, like, fuck it, just do whatever. Because before, they had to, like, do things to get the person just to remember these ifs. You know, like the mom had to dance and think about those days she was dancing. This guy had to get comforted again because he's a loser. And, you know, Blue had to kind of, like, you know, build him up. Like, it's going to be okay, you're going to be okay. And then I guess he reconnected with Blue. This time, it just looks like Ryan is like, here you go. Because, like, there's this one scene that this guy is working in a store, and he's pricing potato chips. And I don't understand this method that he's doing, because he seems to be pricing just the chips in front. Like, there's all these rolls of chips behind the bags of chips. So instead of him going like, sticker, 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 he just goes down the line. Like, all the chips in the front, he just goes, sticker, 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 sticker. I don't work in a grocery store, but I'm pretty sure it's not how that works. Because if these chips come up a different price, I'm going to be pissed. Because you need to put a sticker on these ones in the back. Oh my gosh. So anyway, his if was Cosmo. And then Cosmo just out of nowhere tackles this guy. Like, he's dropping inventory on the floor. And they kind of disappear out of sight. So I guess Cosmo was now back with this kid. Or this guy, right? He's not even a kid. But do we need them to be back to people who are very thrown off? Because he wasn't expecting this. This thing is just in your face. Obviously, he didn't remember this if, but now there's this thing in front of you. So why do not have emotional situations for the if to be back with you? Because then the nurse, I guess her if was this alligator who's sitting on her car. So she goes outside and just sees this alligator sitting on her car, and she starts to smile, walks up to it and gives it a hug. But now you're looking crazy out here hugging this thing in the parking lot of a hospital. I'm sure there's a psych ward inside. You're not very far. And all these... Are these all the ones that's from New York? Are there other ifs in the world? Do they all just live in Coney Island? Like, I don't understand this retirement home for the ifs that live here. Because half of them, their owners were here. And what happens to the other ones? Like, okay, you know what? The movie is over, and so am I. So y'all, that was the movie If. Like, I tried so hard to like this movie. I wanted to like this movie. This movie is cute. It's cute. And I know it's for, like, children. But, you know, if you're going to put Ryan Reynolds in it, I'm going to watch it. And now that I watched it, I don't like it. Because there's just too many, like, why am I asking all these questions? And you kind of ruined it for me with Lewis spilling the beans. I guess unless you did that on purpose, but now I have more questions. So, and now you got this ending where I just feel like they were just like, oh shit, we're supposed to do something, right? Well, just film these scenes right here and let's be done with it. And I feel like that's what they did. I feel like they rushed the ending, and it wasn't like thought out all the way through. So, and this is my second imaginary friend movie. So earlier this year, I think, or was that last year? I don't remember. But I reviewed this movie called, what the hell was it called? Oh shit! It was called Imaginary. And it was about this. Now that was a horror movie, right? Same thing. I love the premise of it. There was just some things I'm like, what? and y'all, like, there's a lot of movies I like stupid movies like this. Like, they do a good job, and I guess I wasn't feeling it at the end. So I guess I never have to watch this one again because I'm probably going to see more stuff and be like, what is that? Where did that come from? Alright, so I have no idea how long this review is, but we're going to speed the shots up because this movie's only getting like one shot. Only because Ryan Reynolds is in it. However, now, I will say, the little girl, Callie Fleming, she's good. I liked her performance. She did a good job in this movie. You know, I just had to roll my eyes because I was like, oh, it's Judith. She's still alive. So, she's good. I think they had a really good girl, actress, playing this role. So I will say that for her. But it's just the story. It just comes down to the story. All right, so this movie's going to get the one shot. And while I take these, let me know your thoughts of the movie. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you see it? Did you go by yourself? Did you take your children? Did your children understand what was happening? Did you have to explain something? Did Ben ever get out of the hospital? Oh, yes, no, Ben got out of the hospital. Oh, my God, you guys. So when all these ifs are reconnecting with people, there actually is a scene where Ben is now out of the hospital and he's at a park. Don't see a parent. I don't see a guardian. This kid is just at the park by himself. But this dragon like sits down. And I figured if he was to get an if, it would be a dragon. Because at one point, when B went to his room. He must have been in the bathroom or something because he wasn't in his bed. And she pulled the covers up, and he had like a whole bunch of dragons in the bed. So I was like, oh, well, maybe that'd be cute if he had like a little if dragon, right? But yeah, like this nerdy dragon sits down next to him, and he looks up and he sees it. He goes, hi. So I was like, oh, at least they gave Ben a happy ending because this kid was just neglected for this whole movie. Oh my gosh. Okay. Cheers. Sol la ti do. Do re mi fa sol la ti do. Okay. I can still speak. Okay, so let me know, Phoebe, why do you always end up coming at the end of these videos? Okay, so let me what? Now I forgot what I was saying. Okay, for real. Ooh, these shots. Okay, please like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next episode. So, until then, TTF and